Donald Trump will do whatever it takes to distract from the Epstein files, whether that's making insane posts, pulling insane stunts, shutting down the government, or literally demolishing the White House. Donald Trump wants the mainstream press to stop focusing on Epstein, and largely they have. It is only the independent media or a few folks in the mainstream press like Lawrence O'Donnell who continue to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. But it is not just us who are apparently shocked at how far Donald Trump is willing to go to distract, because honestly, it's not surprising. But what is that people in the White House are now admitting to the cover-up, including Donald Trump's top aides, and it's all coming out. We're going to get into it, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into how Donald Trump's top aides are now admitting to the Epstein cover-up, I want to start with someone who broke down how Donald Trump is using the shutdown to prevent us from talking about Epstein and from anything else coming out, and that was Lawrence O'Donnell right here.
We now have a shutdown because you are too scared of the truth. The shutdown appeared to be about budget issues at the beginning, but as it drags on with absolutely no attempt to negotiate those budget issues, you have a right to wonder what it is really about. And with the Speaker of the House using the government shutdown as an excuse for not swearing in the newest elected member of the House of Representatives who would become the decisive vote in the House to release the Epstein files, gives Congressman Garcia more than enough evidence to reasonably argue that, quote, we now have a shutdown because you are too scared of the truth. If the shutdown is not about the Epstein files, then prove it. Speaker Johnson can swear in the newest elected member of the House of Representatives tomorrow, Adelita Grijalva. And the only reason he is not doing that is that she would then immediately become the decisive vote to release the Epstein files. Technically, she would become the 218th signature on a so-called discharge petition, which forces a vote in the House of Representatives on releasing the Epstein files, a vote everyone knows will pass. And so Donald Trump travels the world avoiding any possible negotiation to end the shutdown because the shutdown shuts down the Epstein files. Donald Trump proves the pointlessness of his world travels whenever he talks about them. Today on Air Force One, after his meetings in China, he told reporters something that would be unthinkable for any other president in that situation. He said, quote, Taiwan never came up. It was not discussed. Today, over 20 survivors of the abuse visited upon them by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell urged the House of Representatives to swear in the newest elected member of the House and allow her to become the deciding vote on the Epstein files. Their statement says, the continued refusal to seat her is an unacceptable breach of democratic norms and a disservice to the American people. Even more concerning to us as survivors, this delay appears to be a deliberate attempt to block her participation in the discharge petition that would force a vote to unseal the Epstein-Maxwell files. The American public has a right to transparency and accountability, and we, as survivors, deserve justice. Any attempt to obstruct a vote on this matter by manipulating House procedure or denying elected members their seats is a direct affront to that right and adds insult to our trauma. Speaker Johnson must stop using procedural tactics to protect the powerful and instead uphold the integrity of our democratic institutions. Our trauma is not a pawn in your political games. Every day you stall is another day survivors are denied justice and the American people are denied the truth. Swear in Representative Grijalva and let democracy speak.
Adelita Grijalva has now become the longest representative-elect. It has been more than a month since she won her election, and it is very clear that not only is this about preventing the Epstein files from coming out, but this is a dry run for Mike Johnson. You don't think that Donald Trump will dispute every single close congressional election in a midterms in which he'll get mollywopped, but it could come down to a couple of seats. Do you think Donald Trump won't tell Mike Johnson that he's not allowed to swear anyone in, that we have to wait, that things have to be contested? There's seriously not been enough outrage about this. It's insane. And of course, it is also because of Epstein. It couldn't be more transparent that Donald Trump is terrified of this vote. And it's also because, as I've heard from many members of Congress, including Hakeem Jeffries, that he believes there will be at least 40, 50, 60 Republicans voting to release the Epstein files when it comes to the floor. And that is why Donald Trump has to distract. That's why he has to keep the government shut down. And even his aides are admitting that now. How Trump aides mock him behind his back. Donald Trump's pet project has been referred to by some people in the White House as the Epstein ballroom, according to the president's biographer. Michael Wolff, speaking on the Daily Beast podcast Inside Trump's Head, recounted one White House insider's admission about how the dead sex offender and former Trump pal is never really going away. I had this conversation the day before yesterday with somebody, a White House circle person in the middle of all of this, Wolff, 72, told co-host Joan Coles. We were just talking, and this is a person I've gotten to know over quite a long period of time, so we're quite friendly, and it was just catching up. This person is just sort of going over what's happening in his world, which is to say Trump world, and he referred to something called the Epstein ballroom. Without prompting from me, Wolff went on, so I said, wait, the Epstein ballroom? That's what you're calling it? And he was kind of sheepish at the moment, but then he said, well, it has come up more than a few times. Wolff, with whom Epstein analyzed his friendship with Trump in a 2017 interview, said the comment revealed a few things. Within the White House, I think that there are 2 points about this, that the ballroom itself is regarded as bordering on preposterous, and this awareness that Epstein is everywhere in the Trump world, and that, in fact, everything is a distraction from Epstein, Wolff said. Another takeaway, Wolff said, was that there are some in the White House who at least have a sense of self-awareness and irony. They are not Stephen Miller, Wolff said, referring to the deputy chief of staff. They are not walking into this blind. Now, of course, they are not walking out of this, which is, I think, a key point. But nevertheless, they are there. And I've found this across writing 4 books about Trump, that there is kind of a captive world around him that is kind of clear-eyed. White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt, 28, said earlier this month that the ballroom was Trump's main priority. The controversial construction project, which currently has a price tag of $300 million, will be reportedly named after the president. But some online commentators have since joked that a more fitting name would involve Epstein. Apparently, that sentiment has been echoed inside the administration. I think it will be officially the Trump ballroom, Wolff said, but unofficially, mordantly, the Epstein ballroom. When reached for comment, the White House disputed Wolff's credibility. Michael Wolff is a lying sack of shit and has proven to be a fraud. Communications Director Stephen Chung told the Daily Beast he routinely fabricates stories originating from his sick and warped imagination, only possible because he has a severe and debilitating case of Trump derangement syndrome that has rotted his peanut-sized brain. So yes, the government is shut down, the tweets are getting crazier, the stunts are getting more stupid, and Snap is going to run out. Because, of course, Donald Trump wants it to. It doesn't have to. There are billions of dollars that have been appropriated for emergency funding. Donald Trump just likes people to starve, and all because of Jeffrey Epstein. That is what is happening right now, which I think should mean that the mainstream press needs to give more attention to Epstein. If they were allowing a vote on the files, if they were allowing the files to go public, of course we'd be talking about it. Of course we'd be covering it. But because the stories are around, or no longer around Epstein, because they're floating in the periphery, people have largely moved on. But let's think about why other things are coming up. Let's think about why Donald Trump is trying to distract you, and maybe make that the story. Of course, I want to talk about the shutdown, but it's important to do so in context. And certainly it's not just all about Epstein, but a large part of it is. The other part is breaking not just our government. Donald Trump has done that with mass layoffs. That was his plan all along with Russ Vaught. But also breaking our perception of the government. How could you come out of this administration and not think that the federal government is designed to afford giant tax cuts and bailouts to billionaires, to protect Donald Trump's pedophile friends, and to attack you, undermine your freedoms? That's what you'd think, because that's what Donald Trump wants you to think. But we can't allow that to happen. Government is something that can actually work for regular people, not just billionaires and the most disgusting criminals in our country. And of course, Donald Trump right now is doing that with the racist narratives that we see MAGA push around Snap, but we have to push back against those. And someone who did was Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and this clip right here.
Well, I will tell you this. I will agree with them on one thing. I will agree that there are too many American people that are on SNAP benefits. But that means that you got to not look necessarily at SNAP. You got to look at the reasons that they're on SNAP. We know that over 1/4 of these people that are in receipt of SNAP benefits are actually the working poor in this country, right? We have not increased the minimum wage, and I don't know when, and the minimum wage still sits at $7 while everything else is going up, whether we're talking about the cost of food or whether we're talking about the cost of rent or whether we're talking about the cost to actually try to engage in home ownership, if we're talking about the interest rates. And we know that under the failed leadership of this administration, this country has seen a loss of 1 million jobs, and that's just in the first few months. He's not even had a full year. So no, we need to work on economic policies that will put people into a position in which they are not the working poor, where they are still needing the $6 a day to eat. So yes, we need to talk about it, but I don't think that SNAP is the problem. I think that that is the resolution, or at least that is a symptom of the problem. We have a bigger problem in which we have billionaires that are continuing to rise up every single day and are getting richer and richer, to the extent that there was talk about Elon becoming a trillionaire, the first one in this country or in the world. Yet we still have people that have to go to the food bank and go to work, that have to sit there and go to make sure that they've got money on their SNAP and EBT cards. Like, that's a problem, and I do think that we need to address it.
When we are currently sending $40 billion to Argentina and sending wasteful billions to Israel to carry out a genocide, I think that kids on SNAP should be able to have a cookie or a cup of soda without conservatives crying that it's waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't think that that should be a problem in the wealthiest country in the world for people to eat. And I always hear this, well, where is it coming from? Who's going to pay for it? Whose tax dollars? Mine. I'm happy to pay for people to eat. That's like the point of a government. The point of a government isn't to build ballrooms with billionaire donations. And do you know why those billionaires are giving money to Donald Trump? Do you know why? Because it's a lot easier to give $3 million for a ballroom if you're Apple than it is to start bringing manufacturing and jobs back to America, which they're not going to do. Tariffs won't do it. Trump won't do it. It's not going to happen. But that's an easier route for them. They know they have to appease the president. So what I'll say to any Democratic president is realize how weak these billionaires are. Realize how weak these corporations are. I feel like so many times we feel like, well, we can't. These institutions, tough to stand up to them. Clearly not. Clearly not. So let's come in with a little bit of punch and a little bit of vengeance, a little bit of justice. Let's fight back. We're going to continue to talk about that on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, we'll see you soon.